Hi there, and welcome to Dan's American English. Today we're going to be looking at James and the Giant Peach, Chapter 2. So, let's start with some difficult vocabulary. First we have peculiar, blazing, chop, sip, fizzy, piggy, sunken, flabby, boiled, soggy, cabbage, steel, rim, spectacles, screeching, specs, ghastly, hags, hideous, feast your eyes, shapely, silky, locks, dainty, tummy, gorgeous, beauteous, radiant, pimple, trout, Hollywood, leading parts, Frankenstein, ache, blunt, tricycle, ooze, lean, and snap. So peculiar means unusual and strange. Blazing means very bright and hot. To chop means to cut something into pieces with an axe, knife, or other sharp instrument. To sip means to drink, taking only a very small amount at a time. Fizzy means having a lot of bubbles. Piggy means like a pig. Sunken means seeming to have fallen further into the face, especially because of tiredness, illness, or old age. Flabby means soft and fat. Boiled means cooked in water that is boiling. Soggy means unpleasantly wet and soft. Cabbage is a large round vegetable with large green, white, or purple leaves. Steel is a strong metal that is a mixture of iron and carbon. The rim of something is the outer, often curved or circular edge. Spectacles is an old word for glasses. To screech means to make a loud, unpleasant, or high noise. A speck is a very small mark, piece, or amount. Ghastly means unpleasant and shocking. A hag is an ugly old woman, especially a cruel or unpleasant one. Hideous means extremely ugly or bad. To feast your eyes on someone or something means to look at someone or something with great enjoyment. Shapely is used to describe something that has an attractive form, especially a woman's body or parts of a woman's body. Silky means soft and smooth, like silk. A lock is a small group of hairs, especially a curl. Dainty means small, delicate, and often moving in a careful way. Your tummy is your stomach or the lower front part of your body. Gorgeous means very beautiful or pleasant. Beauteous means very attractive to look at. Radiant, similarly, means very beautiful. So a pimple is a small raised spot on the skin that is temporary. A trout can either be a type of fish that lives in rivers and lakes, or it can also be an old woman, especially a woman who is unpleasant or unattractive. So Hollywood is an area in Los Angeles, California that is considered to be the center of the movie industry in the US. So a leading part is the most important role in a movie or one of the most important roles in a movie. Frankenstein is used to refer to a monster in the shape of a man, especially in popularized versions of the Frankenstein story. It's important to note that in the original Frankenstein novel, Frankenstein was actually the doctor, but we use this word to refer to the monster. So to ache means to suffer a usually dull but persistent pain. Blunt means not sharp. A tricycle is a three-wheeled vehicle similar to a bike. To ooze means to move slowly, especially for a liquid. To lean means to move your body from a vertical position so that it's bent forward, sloped, or resting on something. To snap means to say something suddenly, in an angry way. Here we go. Chapter 2. After James Henry Trotter had been living with his aunts for 3 whole years, there came a morning when something rather peculiar happened to him. And this thing, which as I say was only rather peculiar, soon caused a second thing to happen, which was very peculiar. And then the very peculiar thing, in its own turn, caused a really fantastically peculiar thing to occur. It all started on a blazing hot day in the middle of summer. Aunt Sponge, Aunt Spiker, and James were all out in the garden. James had been put to work, as usual. This time he was chopping wood for the kitchen stove. Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker were sitting comfortably in deck chairs nearby, sipping tall glasses of fizzy lemonade and watching him to see that he didn't stop work for one moment. Aunt Sponge was enormously fat and very short. She had small piggy eyes, a sunken mouth, and one of those white flabby faces that looked exactly as though it had been boiled. She looked like a great white, soggy, over-boiled cabbage. Aunt Spiker, on the other hand, was lean and tall and bony, and she wore steel-rimmed spectacles that fixed on to the end of her nose with a clip. She had a screeching voice and long, wet, narrow lips, and whenever she got angry or excited, little flecks of spit would come shooting out of her mouth as she talked. And there they sat, these two ghastly hags, sipping their drinks, and every now and again screaming at James to chop faster and faster. They also talked about themselves, each one saying how beautiful she thought she was. Aunt Sponge had a long-handled mirror on her lap, and she kept picking it up and gazing at her own hideous face. "I look and smell," Aunt Sponge declared, "as lovely as a rose. Just feast your eyes upon my face. Observe my shapely nose. Behold my heavenly silky locks. And if I take off both my socks, you'll see my dainty toes. But don't forget," Aunt Spiker cried, "how much your tummy shows." Aunt Sponge went red. Aunt Spiker said, "My sweet, you cannot win. Behold my gorgeous curvy shape, my teeth, my charming grin. Oh, beauteous me, how I adore my radiant looks, and please ignore the pimple on my chin. My dear old trout," Aunt Sponge cried out, "you're only bones and skin." "Such loveliness as I possess can only truly shine in Hollywood," Aunt Sponge declared. "Oh, wouldn't that be fine? I'd capture all the nation's hearts. They'd give me all the leading parts. the stars would all resign. I think you'd make, Aunt Spiker said, a lovely Frankenstein. Poor James was still slaving away at the chopping block. The heat was terrible. He was sweating all over. His arm was aching. The chopper was a large, blunt thing, far too heavy for a small boy to use. And as he worked, James began thinking about all the other children in the world and what they might be doing at this moment. Some would be riding tricycles in their gardens. Some would be walking in cool woods and picking bunches of wild flowers. And all the little friends whom he used to know would be down by the seaside, playing in the wet sand and splashing around in the water. Great tears began oozing out of James' eyes and rolling down his cheeks. He stopped working and leaned against the chopping block, overwhelmed by his own unhappiness. "What's the matter with you?" Aunt Spiker screeched, glaring at him over the top of her steel spectacles. James began to cry. "Stop that immediately and get on with your work, you nasty little beast," Aunt Sponge ordered. "Oh, Auntie Sponge," James cried out, "and Auntie Spiker, couldn't we all, please, just for once, go down to the seaside on the bus? It isn't very far, and I feel so hot and awful and lonely." "Why, you lazy good-for-nothing brute," Aunt Spiker shouted. "Beat him," cried Aunt Sponge. "I certainly will," Aunt Spiker snapped. She glared at James, and James looked back at her with large, frightened eyes. "I shall beat you later on in the day, when I don't feel so hot," she said. "And now get out of my sight, you disgusting little worm, and give me some peace." James turned and ran. He ran off as fast as he could to the far end of the garden and hid himself behind that clump of dirty old laurel bushes that we mentioned earlier on. Then he covered his face with his hands and began to cry and cry. Good. So, time for some comprehension questions. So, what did Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker force James to do? Is it A, plant several peach trees in the garden? B, make lemonade? C, take them to the movies? Or D, chop wood? Very good. The correct answer is D, chop wood. What did James's two aunts mistakenly believe about themselves? A, that a famous Hollywood actor would soon fall in love with them. B, they believed they were very beautiful, even though they were really very ugly. C, they were scared that Frankenstein would come to attack them. Or D, Aunt Spiker was worried that she was going to have a heat stroke. Great work. The correct answer is B. They believed that they were very beautiful, even though they were really very ugly. What did Aunt Spiker use to beat James? A, a glass of fizzy lemonade. B, a long-handled mirror. C, a pair of steel-rimmed spectacles. Or D, this is a trick question, she actually felt too hot to beat James. Very good. It was a trick question. She felt too hot to beat James. Okay, great work today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe and look out for part 3 coming soon. Bye-bye.